In the quiet, worn-out corners of the military base, an old, rugged woman named Maya lived among the shadows. She was known to the younger soldiers as the one who was discarded, an old warrior whose prime had passed and was now left to wander the outskirts of the army. No one really knew her story. They only saw her in the mess hall, sitting alone, far from the camaraderie the others shared. Her once vibrant uniform was now a faded relic, much like the warrior within it. But there was something about her eyes, a quiet strength, a story untold, and a mystery yet to be unraveled. Maya had been part of an elite unit once, a soldier among soldiers, feared by enemies and respected by peers. But the whispers had faded. The stories had been forgotten. The military had moved on, pushing her to the back of the line, as though she was of no more value than a broken weapon left to rust. Yet, Maya kept her back straight, her eyes sharp, and her steps steady. She never spoke about her past. Only the fresh recruits who had been there for a while, but never long enough to know her true history, would ask what had happened. They would look at her with curiosity, but mostly pity. But Maya had learned long ago that people were often too quick to forget, too quick to discard. And what they didn't understand, they couldn't begin to respect. Asterisk on a quiet evening, as the base settled into its usual routine of silence, a new face arrived. A high-ranking officer, a general who was rumored to be tough as steel. He had recently been appointed to oversee operations in the region. His reputation preceded him. No one knew him personally, but his reputation was known to all. This man, General Donovan, had made his name by rising through the ranks with precision and brutality. He believed in order, in discipline, and in efficiency. Nothing else mattered. But what he didn't know was that this new assignment would soon challenge everything he believed in. Maya had been in the farthest corner of the base, washing her boots and preparing for another lonely night. It was then that she noticed the uniformed man walking past her. He was surrounded by officers, all giving him their full attention. The sound of his boots on the ground was authoritative, demanding respect. He walked by Maya without even sparing a glance. His eyes were focused ahead, never stopping, never noticing. But then, as the general passed by, something strange happened. For a split second, his gaze flicked down to Maya's forearm, where a tattoo, dark, bold, and intricate, stood proudly. The tattoo was not just ink. It was a symbol, a mark of her service that had been earned in the blood and fire of countless battles. Maya had never shown anyone the tattoo. It was too personal, too sacred. But there, in that moment, the general froze, his posture stiffened. His eyes widened. He stopped in his tracks, his gaze fixed on her arm. The surrounding officers, unaware of what had just transpired, continued their conversation, oblivious to the moment that had just shifted the atmosphere. Asterisk, it had been years since General Donovan had seen that tattoo. It was a mark known only to a few, the symbol of an elite unit that had operated behind enemy lines, a group of soldiers so skilled that their very existence was classified. Only those who had lived through the horrors of war knew its meaning. The tattoo was a legacy of bravery, of camaraderie, of sacrifice. It was a mark earned through the hardest of battles. And there, before him, was the last person he ever expected to see wearing it. The general turned on his heel, walking back toward Maya with a strange, almost reverent look in his eyes. The officers around him were confused, but no one dared to speak out of turn. As he approached her, Maya could feel the weight of his gaze on her. It was no longer just a passing glance. It was a moment of recognition. "Excuse me." The general spoke softly, his voice unlike the harsh commands he was known for. "Where did you get that tattoo?" Maya's eyes met his for the first time. Her expression remained unreadable, but her heart skipped a beat. "I earned it," she replied, her voice steady and calm, though she could feel the tension building. The general nodded, understanding the unspoken words behind her answer. "I knew that unit," he said quietly. "They were legends." Maya didn't respond immediately. She simply let the words hang in the air. But deep inside, she could feel the old wounds opening. The general's recognition meant something far deeper than any rank or title. Asterisk, the next few days were filled with an unexpected tension. The general sought Maya out multiple times, always alone, always asking questions about her time in the unit. Slowly, like peeling back layers of a secret history, Maya shared the story she had kept hidden for so long. She spoke of missions in hostile territory, of the sacrifices made by her comrades, and of the betrayal that had shattered the unit. She told him of the moment she had been left behind, marked as a casualty when the mission had gone wrong. Maya had never been able to prove what had happened that day, why she was abandoned, but the scars were still there, both on her body and her soul. General Donovan listened carefully, his expression changing as the days went by. The man who had been cold, efficient, and unyielding was slowly becoming someone else, a man haunted by the weight of his own choices, his own battles. For the first time, he saw Maya not as a discarded soldier, but as a true hero, someone who had lived through the impossible and emerged with a strength few could fathom. One evening, the general made his way to the mess hall, where Maya was sitting alone once again. This time, he did not pass her by. He sat down beside her, his eyes no longer cold but filled with understanding. "They called you discarded," he said quietly, almost to himself. "But that's not who you are." Maya looked at him, the years of pain reflected in her gaze. "Sometimes," she whispered, "you're discarded not because you're weak, but because they're afraid of what you've seen, what you've become." In the weeks that followed, the general did something no one ever expected. He fought for Maya's recognition, pushing for her to be reinstated to the unit, despite the reluctance of the higher-ups. His unwavering determination, backed by the truth of her story, eventually brought her back into the fold. Maya stood tall once again, her uniform crisp, the tattoo now a symbol of pride rather than a mark of abandonment. She was no longer a discarded soldier. She was a legend, a warrior who had faced the depths of darkness and emerged unbroken. As for General Donovan, he had learned something invaluable. Sometimes, it takes recognizing the strength in others to truly understand the cost of leadership. And in Maya's eyes, he saw not just a soldier, but a woman who had given everything. Even when the world had forgotten her, the discarded soldier had become a symbol of courage, and the general had never been prouder to stand beside her.